In this question, we're told given that y equals 7x squared minus 6x minus 3 to find dy by dx from first principles. So in this question, the first thing that I would do is I would state that f of x is equal to 7x squared minus 6x minus 3. Next, I would find f of x plus h. This is found by substituting in x plus h everywhere that there is an x. So 6x plus h minus 3. So this is 7x plus h squared. So first of all, square the bracket. So I get x squared plus 2hx plus h squared minus 6x minus 6h minus 3. And then finally expand out the final bracket. So we get 7x squared plus 14hx plus 7h squared minus 6x minus 6h minus 3. Next, we find the difference between f of x plus h and f of x. So lead with the f of x plus h, take away the f of x. Notice that all the terms in f of x plus h without h will cancel with all the terms in f of x. So 7x squared cancels, leaving 14hx and 7h squared. Then the minus 6x's cancel, leaving minus 6h, and then the minus 3's cancel. Next, divide f of x plus h minus f of x by h. So we're going to divide through each of these terms by h so that we get left with 14x plus 7h minus 6. And then finally, the last step, it's really important that we state this fully, otherwise we miss a mark. It's the limit dy by dx is equal to the limit as h tends to 0 of f of x plus h minus f of x all over h. And this must be stated in full, otherwise if it is incomplete it is not valid and you lose marks. So 14x remains, the 7h tends to 0, and it just leaves us with the minus 6. Okay, let's have a look at part B. Part B says given that y equals ax to the power of 4/3 plus 24x to the power of a half, and that dy by dx equals 11 over 2 when x equals 64, find the value of the constant a. So we're going to link and try and find a by using dy by dx, since I have the conditions for dy by dx and x. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to differentiate the function of y. So differentiating my first term, I'm going to multiply by 4/3, so I get 4/3 ax. Decrease this power by 1 by taking the denominator 3 from the numerator 4, so that leaves me x to the power of a third, plus 24 times a half gives me 12x. Decrease the power by 1, so I'm going to subtract 2 from 1, and that gives me minus a half. Now, since I'm going to have to calculate with the value x equals 64 in this expression, I'm going to rewrite this using roots and reciprocals so I can understand better the calculations required. So we get dy by dx is equal to 4/3 a. X to the power of a third is the cube root of x, plus 12. X to the power of a half is the square root of x. X to the power of minus a half is a reciprocal, so I get 12 over the square root of x. So now we're going to use dy by dx equals 11 over 2 and x equals 64, and we're going to substitute it into our expression so that I get, instead of a dy by dx, I get 11 over 2 is equal to 4/3 a times the cube root of 64 plus 12 over the square root of 64. Now working through this, just term by term slowly, I get 11 over 2 is equal to, cube root of 64 is 4. So 4 times 4 gives me 16 over 3a. Plus, square root of 64 is 8, so 12 over 8 can cancel to 3 over 2. And now we've got quite a relatively simple equation in A to solve. So I'm going to subtract 3 over 2 from both sides. That means on the left hand side I get 8 over 2, and 8 over 2 is just 4. This is equal to 16 over 3a. So what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to actually divide both sides by 4 because there's a common factor there. And I'm also going to times both sides by 3 to get rid of the denominator. So 4 divided by 4 is 1, times by 3 is 3. 16 divided by 4 is 4. So we get 3 is equal to 4a. And then finally, I'm going to divide by 4 again so that I get a is equal to 3/4. Okay, so let's check to see how this is marked then. Going back to part A. Initially, part A, we get a standalone mark for substituting in the x plus h into the expression for f of x. There is then a method mark for subtracting f of x from f of x plus h, and there is an answer mark if you get to the correct value. So let's just adjust that mark quickly. So it should read, there's a method mark for the process and an answer mark if we get this expression or equivalent here. Then there is a method mark for dividing by h and taking the limit as h tends to 0. Without this full complete statement, you don't get that method mark, and then you only get the answer mark if you've been awarded that previous method mark and you've got 14x minus 6. Let's look at part B. Part B says there's a standalone mark for the first term correctly differentiated, and there is a standalone mark for the second term correctly differentiated. Next, there is a method mark for attempting to substitute 11 over 2 and x equals 64 into the expression. And then finally, if you've got all the way to a equals 3/4 or an equivalent fraction, then you get the final answer mark. Okay, well I hope you was able to follow my solution and that you understood how to mark it.